Hi, my name is Jennifer Webster, and I am a school social worker at the Indiana School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and I'm here to welcome you to the bullying prevention and intervention training that we have put together for you. I would also like to introduce to you Selena Ho, school psychologist, who is going to talk with you about law, policy, and procedures having to do with bullying behavior. I'm going to talk with you about bullying behavior, what it looks like, what it is not. And Liz Cheever is a school social worker who will be talking with us about prevention and intervention of bullying behavior.
What is bullying? Dan Olweus coined the term in 1994. A student is being bullied or victimized when he or she is exposed repeatedly and over time to negative actions on the part of one or more other students. What is bullying? Bullying is defined for Indiana schools as bullying means overt, intentional, unwanted, repeated acts or gestures, including verbal or written communications or images transmitted in any manner, including digitally or electronically, physical acts committed, aggression, or any other behaviors that are committed by a student or group of students against another student, with the intent to harass, ridicule, humiliate, intimidate, or harm the other targeted student and create for the targeted student an objectively hostile school environment that places the targeted student in reasonable fear of harm to the targeted student's person or property, has a substantially detrimental effect on the targeted student's physical or mental health, has the effect of substantially interfering with the targeted student's academic performance, or has the effect of substantially interfering with the targeted student's ability to participate in or benefit from the services, activities, and privileges provided by the school. ISBVI has a school policy that can be located at this website. It's a 12-page policy. Here are the highlights of the ISBVI policy. Bullying definition follows law, prohibits bullying. Additional information is provided in our policy. We provide training for all students on how to recognize bullying and reporting bullying, and training for all adults at school, including staff, volunteers, parents, and others. The policy includes reporting requirements and procedures, investigation referral to service to outside agencies for other investigation, school reporting requirements in accordance with law and the Department of Education. Training for students is done in small groups to define bullying, describe the difference between tattling and telling, clarifying procedures for students to report bullying, strategies for responding and coping with the outcomes of bullying, and outline possible consequences. Bullying can occur anywhere. Training for adults. Those who may witness bullying in school this year include teachers, instructional aides and substitute teachers, residential and recreation staff, parents and other volunteers, housekeeping staff, dietary staff, administrators and related services teams, any adult in school. Training for adults. School administrators are now required to hold their staff accountable for recognizing and reporting acts of bullying. We all need to be aware of the definitions of bullying, how to recognize bullying when we see it, what are our school protocols for reporting incidences to administrators, and how we can contribute to creating a safe school environment. Report bullying. Students may report bullying to any teacher, administrator, or superintendent. Staff, volunteer, or contracted service provider who observes or receives reports of bullying shall make written report to superintendent that same day. Reports may be written or anonymous. However, written reports provide the best opportunity for further investigation. Failure to report or false reporting can result in disciplinary action.
So learning about bullying is not just something to do because the law is now requiring us to be more aware of it and informed about it, but it's also a good idea because research in this area shows that the more comprehensive a program is to address bullying, the more successful it is. So in other words, the more people who understand how to recognize bullying and what to do if they see it and have a cohesive message to the students that bullying is not okay, the better our results will be. So when we talk about bullying, we might use some words to understand here. The target is a student who has been bullied or is thought to perhaps be bullied. We might use the word target now instead of victim. A more empowering word is target. We try to talk about a student who might get involved in bullying behavior rather than saying that the person is a bully. And we also use the term of bystander to refer to a student who observed bullying behavior. So to break down that legal definition of bullying into its simplest terms, you can think of it as a three-legged stool. Not only is there the aggressive behavior, negative behavior, but it's either repeated or it has the potential for being repeated so that the student feels that the situation won't go away, and either a real or a perceived power imbalance between the individuals involved. So all three of those legs of the stool have to be present, or else it may not be bullying according to its strict definition. Conflict is inevitable, but bullying is not. So just because a behavior is not bullying by its strict definition doesn't mean that we don't want to address it and do something about it, but it doesn't fall under the bullying category. Bullying, unfortunately, has many forms: physical, verbal, social, relational, or electronic, written. Physical and verbal are fairly self-explanatory. Social relational can be things that one may not automatically think of as bullying, including public humiliation, spreading rumors, purposely leaving someone out. And of course, in today's day and age, we know that kids can use social media, other electronic means to bully. And as we talked about with the three-legged stool, a peer conflict is not necessarily bullying. If two students may have an ongoing disagreement, it's ongoing, it's negative, but there not a power difference. It may not fall under bullying. And the other items here, the teen dating, violence, hazing, gang violence, harassment, stalking, these items may not be bullying. There may be some overlap, but they have their own definitions, and they may or may not be involved in a bullying situation. Of course, with any sort of negative interaction, especially with the potential for harm, just because it doesn't fit the definition of bullying doesn't mean that we don't need to intervene, but this is specifically to talk about how to intervene with bullying. Some students may be more susceptible to getting involved in bullying behavior. Here are some of the things that may go along with a student who may get involved in bullying. In particular, I notice the lacking of empathy for others, because I think there's an opportunity there for growth, learning, education. I think that empathy is something that can be developed, and I think that adults in the school are the perfect people to help with that. Some risk factors that a student might be more likely to become a target of bullying are listed here. Unfortunately, students who are perceived as different might be more likely to be picked on. And the National Education Association indicates that weight is the number one issue that students report being bullied about. Here are some helpful signs for teachers, staff, and parents to watch for in their students. Unexplained or sudden changes, avoidance of school or social situations, unexplained decrease in self-esteem or self-destructive behaviors. If a student is exhibiting these type of warning signs, this is the time to talk with the student privately and or refer them to social or psychological services or the guidance counselor, so that we might be able to investigate what's going on with that student, whether it's a bullying situation or something else. We might want to intervene. The earlier the better, so that if there is a bullying situation, we can address it. The effects on the student who is the target of bullying include health complaints such as headaches, stomach aches, or other aches and pains, decreased school achievement and involvement. Research shows that the targets of bullying have higher rates of absenteeism and feel less connected to their schools. And there are mental health conditions that can be exacerbated. They're learning more and more about how students are setting up patterns for their lives at this age, and the effects can be long-term. There are a few bullied children who retaliate violently against themselves or others. These usually well-publicized cases are rare, but very serious. And even though they're rare, we need to pay attention, and that's one of the reasons for our training today. The effects of bullying are not just on the targeted student. The students who get involved in bullying behavior are also negatively affected. They are more likely to engage in other risky or negative behaviors that will not serve them well in the long run. So once again, the earlier we can intervene to help them change their patterns of behavior, provide interventions that focus on empathy development, the better outcomes are for students. Even students who are not the perpetrators or the targets of bullying have negative effects. Kids who witness bullying are also negatively affected by bullying, so it benefits everyone around when we understand what it is and we know how to intervene. According to the National Association of School Psychologists, 160,000 students every day stay home from school because of bullying. So it is a widespread problem. One piece of information that I found interesting, wanted to share, is a study that was done And students who had admitted getting involved in bullying behavior were asked why did they do that bullying behavior and how did they feel afterwards. And the results indicated that the students who were doing the bullying behavior felt they were provoked to do so, and they didn't feel better afterwards. So that old adage that says that a bully just enjoys picking on somebody else to make themselves feel better is probably not true in most cases. It's possible that they have misperceptions about what's going on, and thinking that they were provoked, even though it was established that they had been the ones who were involved in the bullying behavior. And they didn't feel better afterwards, so perhaps they just are not, they don't have the tools in their toolbox of what to do differently in those situations. Students also in this study were not very confident in their own abilities to stop bullying. So they were much more confident in the adults' abilities to stop it, and so we have a responsibility to do that.
Hello, my name is Liz Cheever, and I'm going to talk with you this morning about prevention and intervention. I'm not going to read all the slides to you. You can read them yourself, but I'm going to focus on hitting the highlights or the takeaways from the different slides. The first most important thing here is to remember that bullying is everyone's problem. We need to have everybody be aware of the possibility of bullying behaviors and to do whatever you can to stop it or prevent it when you see it happening. Also, if you're unsure of whether an incident meets the standard or meets the official definition of bullying as discussed by Selena, it doesn't matter. You need to take action. Either refer the students, suggest that they come to one of us to get help, or to the psychologist or the school counselor or an administrator, or just refer the student to us yourself and let us know that you're concerned about a situation. The best thing to do probably is both of those. Suggest to the student that they seek help from one of us, and also let us know in case they do not do that so that we can come to them and try to find out what's happening and see if we can help them. I'm going to take a few minutes next to review and highlight various roles and areas where adults may come in contact with students and discuss some of the ways that we can prevent bullying and special issues in those particular areas. So in the classroom, teachers and assistants spend a majority of their school day, their work day, in the classrooms with the students. And because of this, they can have a significant impact on bullying prevention. Most importantly, they need to create a safe and supportive environment in the classroom, participate in our PBIS, positive behavior support programs, use positive terms like offering the kids suggestions about what they can do and things that they could say instead, rather than the things that they shouldn't do or things that they shouldn't say, and just leave it at that. If we give them the positive information that they need, then they can move forward and make better choices, rather than just saying, man, don't say that or don't do that. We need to correct the behavior, but we also need to use positive terms and suggestions so that they know what they can replace the negative with. And finally, just managing student behavior. As it says here, well-managed classrooms are less likely to have bullying behavior and behavior issues in general. Let's give some suggestions about intervening with bullying in the classroom, and I'll talk about intervening in just a little bit because it's pretty consistent across the board. This is a special note for substitute teachers, and stepping into another teacher's classroom or another teacher's area to cover while they're busy can be very difficult. Just getting up to speed on procedures and protocols, it can be very daunting. But allowing adequate time when you arrive to ensure that you have information on things that might be pertinent, any important relationships or issues between students in your classroom, is very important to do, but also just understanding the incident reporting protocols and timetables, as well as other safety and emergency related procedures in the classroom. We're really fortunate here because we have a very small pool of subs, so they know most of the kids and have developed relationships over the years with the children. But again, the most important thing here is to be consistent and stick to the teacher's classroom rules and the classroom plan. So preventing bullying in the cafeteria. The cafeteria tends to be a less structured environment and can provide increased opportunities for bullying behavior. The best way to intervene in this situation tends to be just to create a positive environment, as we've discussed. Use positive interactions, just smile, say hi. That reminds students that you're there. It reminds them that you're a positive person that they can come to if they should need assistance. And it also makes them feel more comfortable and more familiar with you. It talks about noticing something positive here. A good example of that would be if students are at a table and you know that there have been some issues between students, or maybe students have been picking on a certain kid at the table. You can go up to that table and say, "Hey Bob, I heard about how what you did this morning, or I saw you helping another student in the hallway. That was really nice of you. You're such a kind boy," or something positive that plants positive seeds in the other kids' heads about that child, so that they're not always focusing on the negative. It kind of derails some of that push toward the negative. So everybody who's at the table, everybody who's within earshot can hear you talking about positive and connecting with that student in a positive way. Finally, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later as well, you can't expect the students to solve bullying incidents by themselves. They don't have the skills to do that, and we need to step in and intervene. So remember that this goes for the cafeteria, but also in the halls and other areas of the school as well. But just remember that while you're performing your job duties, you're also a role model. So how you interact with other staff members, other teachers, other students, it helps to create a positive and caring environment in the cafeteria and elsewhere in the school. But the kids pay attention to how we talk to each other and how we talk to them and how we relate. And that is huge. They're always watching. Here's some more ideas about intervening. And again, we'll talk about that some more in just a few minutes. So school-wide prevention and intervention, we do have our PBIS, Positive Behavior Support Program, in place. We use the fuel tickets in the elementary school and middle school, Kiever Cash in the middle school, and postcards home across the board. It's most important that we expect a positive attitude and a positive climate at the school, and do things and behave in ways that support that. Probably the biggest takeaways from this slide is the importance of teachers and staff ensuring an adequate level of supervision in all areas. And everybody can play a key role in this, not just teachers and assistants. Anybody who is, cafeteria workers, anybody who is housekeeping, maintenance staff, anybody who is observing student behavior throughout the day, not just the teachers. And as you're addressing the behaviors, it's important to be confident in dealing with the negative behaviors, including bullying behaviors. The confidence, when you address it with confidence, it increases your effectiveness and your authority. Here's some ideas to prevent bullying in the hallway. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about intervention at this point. This is specifically talking about the hallway, but it really is across the board. It's most important to be calm. You need to remain calm and respectful when intervening. Separate the students. If the situation warrants it, you should get another adult to help you. Be careful not to jump to conclusions and address the situation with an audience. other kids standing around, because that can just escalate behaviors. Do not publicly criticize the students involved, because again, that will escalate the situation. And then follow the school's incident reporting protocols. So at ISBVI, we have some unique opportunities for kids to stay after school and kids to stay in the dorm. And again, as we said earlier, it's important to expect a positive attitude and a positive climate, regardless of whether we are during the school day or after school. Again, in the dorms, similar to the hallways and the cafeteria, when sometimes it can be a little less structured, it's important to consistently provide the expectations for the students and also consistently enforce the rules and the expectations. And the expectations need to be clear. And down at the very bottom there, it talks about strongly encouraging students to report anything that makes them feel uncomfortable or afraid. And staying after school, staying in the dorm can be a different experience for kids, especially if they're not doing it on a routine basis. So encouraging them to talk about things that make them feel uncomfortable or afraid will not only help put them at ease, but also could alert other staff members if there's something going on that needs to be addressed, whether it be bullying situation or something else. And again, some ideas for intervening when you observe bullying in the dorm, similar to what we talked about already. And volunteers provide a specific difficulty at times, because oftentimes it may be a parent or somebody who is associated with another teacher or an assistant, but oftentimes the adults that are volunteering for us may not have relationships with the kids. They may not be familiar with all of our procedures and protocols, and so they may not feel comfortable intervening if they see something that feels uncomfortable to them. So as we are accepting and using volunteers, we need to make sure that they understand that we expect them to let us know. If they don't feel comfortable addressing those situations on their own, they need to let us know what's happening so that we can step in and intervene. And again, it points out that adults who don't interact with students on a daily basis are often unfamiliar with their needs, behavior patterns, and friendships. So sometimes they may see something or have a red flag about something that we may not notice, or that isn't necessarily what it seems, because they're not familiar with the children and don't have those same relationships that we do. So communication with volunteers is extremely important. This talks a little bit about follow-up services. And again, remember, when you see something, do something. If you have a gut reaction that something isn't right, something is wrong, something needs to be done, listen to that. Listen to yourself. Go with that gut reaction. Intervene, separate the students. Don't try to resolve the incident right there on the spot. Find out who the students are, but don't question them in front of other students. Report the incident. And again, maybe most importantly, do not assume that the students can work it out on their own without adult help. They just can't. They don't have the skills. They don't have the life experience that we have, and we need to step in and help them. Your response to bullying benefits the target as well as the bystanders. First of all, your intervention provides immediate support to a student who is the target of bullying. But also, you model the type of behavior that you would like to see in your students, and you become an active contributor to a positive school culture. And you let everybody involved, both the target and the bystanders, recognize that you are a positive support person that they can come to should they find themselves in a similar situation. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to contact Mrs. Webster, Miss Selena, or myself, or your immediate supervisor, and you can get more information through any of those sources. Thank you so much.